And welcome back. All right, so as I said, before we took just a little bit of a short break, that today we're actually going to be talking esports and professional gaming, basically. And I'm sure a lot of people. Well, I'm sure everyone knows what esports is right now, but for those who don't know, esports refers to electronic sports, and it basically is a series of tournaments that are played by professional gamers. Professional gamers play against each other. You, Sometimes these are hosted online, or they can be hosted in like esports arenas. Like they've built multi-billion-dollar arenas now where fans can actually come and watch gamers play against each other online. All right. And yeah, man, it's an industry that has, I don't want to lie, it pretty much just snuck up on me. Don't get me wrong, I've always known gaming has was a big thing, because I myself, I remember when I was younger with two of my cousins, Afika and Kuma, we were really into video games. Like we were hectically into video games. We could go 3 days. Imagine, this was like during a school term. We could literally go for 3 days without sleep. Where, because I was at hostel and they were staying at my aunt's place, I would always go on like Fridays, right? Go to my aunt's place on Friday, stay there for the weekend basically. And we would literally play Sega from Friday night, go to bed Saturday morning early, and again Saturday night, not go to bed until ungodly hours Sunday morning, and then again Sunday night as well. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of people were tired of us. But the funny thing about all of this was that we were okay for to go to school the Monday morning. It was like nothing happened. That's how big into video games we were. And then every time I went back home to Mtata, especially like December holidays, again with my friends over there, Anati and Bulelani, we would literally, those guys would come to my house, man, and we would play video games until my parents would tell them, okay, it's time to go home. It's time for you guys who came to visit to go home. So that's how big the sporting culture has always been, since the 90s and into the early O's and everything. But I think for the whole, sort of like esports, for the whole thing to go professional, obviously came in the later, 2000s. And it's just been amazing to see, how this industry, how this part of the sports business, esports business, has just exploded onto the scene. And obviously like notable games that are played within esports would be your League of Legends, you got Counter-Strike, you got Dota, and then sports games which that you play online would be your NBA 2K, FIFA, FIBA, and yeah, so those would be the ones that are most notable, especially with FIBA being recent, because FIBA actually only launched their esports, sort of competition. They only launched it in 2020, So some of these tournaments are still fairly new, but your Fortnite, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Dota, those have been, those have been around for quite some time now. So yeah, they're pretty big, man. They are massive, and it's basically, just in going back to what esports is, it's basically pro gamers, playing against each other within tournaments, and these guys play for mega bucks. I'm not talking small change. Like some tournaments, guys have walked away like first prize with $37 million. If you convert that to South African rands, that's close to over 400 million rand. Imagine that, winning over 400 million rand just to play a fucking video game. But I guess that's what's exciting about just this tech generation that we live in, is that in this day and age, man, you can monetize anything. If anything can be turned into a product, you can literally monetize it. So yeah, so that's basically been what the rise of esports has been all about. It's just, tournaments being organized and then players playing for, for major competition prizes, cash prizes especially. All right, so, in talking about this whole thing, now let's talk about, how or when was esports breakout year? I would say, even though esports has been around for the past, decade or so, the major breakout year for esports was undoubtedly, 2020. I would say that 2020 was the year because, pandemic, everybody had to be indoors. And being indoors, there's only so many things you can do. Otherwise, you get bored out of your skull. There's only so many movies you can watch. I don't know, for those into things like Pornhub, there's only so much Pornhub you can watch. So I'm sure people, needed other things to keep them, stimulated and just keep them entertained. And I think that's where the rise of the whole esports thing took place. And I think that's why FIBA, because the season was pretty much suspended during that season, I guess the organization had to find a way to, to keep monetizing and stay afloat, because a lot of these sporting federations lost so much revenue during the pandemic. With NBA, they've always had NBA 2K within esports. So for them, it wasn't really a problem when the traditional physical NBA season wasn't taking place. So, they just had, multiple esports tournaments that were taking place just to keep the revenues coming in, into the sports federation. So, so 2020 would be the year. That literally took the valuation of esports, man, way into the billions. Like, it's literally a multi-billion-dollar industry at the moment. And I think the one TV show that really marketed esports very well, without a doubt as well, was the show Ballers. Now, I'm sure everyone is familiar with the show. If you remember the 5th season of Ballers, the 5th and last season, you'll definitely recall that there was more of a focus on esports. Like, you got Reggie and Vernon attending, esports tournaments. You got Vernon, who basically wants to become an esports player and believes he's good enough to become an esports player. So you got that whole storyline surrounding that, and Reg, trying to convince him that, dude, you're a national football player, you're in the NFL. Why the fuck do you want to trade that to twiddle your thumbs and play video games? And then they basically get into this whole, push and pull, where Vernon tells him that, listen, it's either you supporting this dream of me becoming a 2-sport athlete, e.g. pro football player and also pro gamer, or, I find someone else, And then eventually, I think Reg, they end up, starting their own esports team, and then they collaborate with an established one who wants to buy the team. So basically they end up cashing out in on it. And I guess the message that the show was trying to show, the message that the show Ballers was trying to basically, showcase, was the fact that, listen, this esports thing, it's here to stay, so it was interesting in witnessing it. I won't lie. I think that for me, that was the first time I really, sort of started giving the whole esports thing attention. That, okay, this whole gaming thing, it's, one shouldn't sleep on it. I think one of the things that's important, man, when you're in this business of sport is, I've realized it's very important to keep your ears to the streets, sort of thing. Watch out for the trends so that you don't get left behind. Don't get me wrong. I'm still big on traditional physical sports. I just happen to think that, this method of professional sports is sort of like a new frontier, because esports is one of those where it's a professional sports that doesn't really discriminate against size or whatever, gender or whatever. it's one of those things where it's literally leveling the playing field. You can be a skinny, 5'5" dude with zero muscle, and you could be the best esports player against a guy who's maybe 6 foot and weighs 220 pounds, or if we're gonna convert that to kgs, a guy who's weighing close to 100 kgs. As the skinny dude, you could trump the guy. You could win against him. And yeah, man. But esports, I like how seriously they take themselves and how professional the setup has also become, because you got teams now that recruit players, and they make them follow a set, sort of like diet. They follow a set, basically gym program, to make sure that these guys are able to perform at their absolute optimum. So don't sleep on them. Don't think that it's just a bunch of guys who wake up, scratch their heads, take a shower, and then they start gaming. No, there's a routine that these guys have to follow. There's a meal plan. There's a training plan. There's also like a video gaming plan that they have to follow, because another thing that you got to remember is these aren't guys who are just going to play for 2 hours a day. No, these are guys who literally have to at least clock in a good 5 to 8 hours of gaming. That's a lot of screen time. And I don't know about you guys, man, but I'm a guy, I don't wear glasses, but for me, if I'm looking at a screen for more than 2-3 hours, I get a fucking headache. So much respect, man, to these esports players for just their endurance when it comes to their screen time, and how they can stay seated for 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours just playing video games. Fucking power to that, man. I respect them for that. All right, and then so we mentioned that 2020 was a breakout year, and then I think platforms like Twitch. I think this also gave platforms like Twitch a major rise. Now, for those of you who don't know Twitch, so Twitch is basically a streaming platform similar to YouTube, but it's for gamers. All right, and it's owned by Amazon, if I'm correct, according to my research. Yeah, they're owned by Amazon, and it's literally gamers who stream themselves while playing video games. All right, and then Twitch is also a platform where a lot of tournaments can also be streamed live and watched by viewers all over the world. All right, so yeah, I also discovered Twitch like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, fuck, where the hell have I been, man? And I'm still convinced, and this might be my crazy self talking, but I really do think, man, had esports been around when I was a fucking kid, screw that, man, I would have skipped high school and gone pro. I still maintain that. Every time I say that, like my friends always laugh at me for that. But that's how big into gaming I was as a kid, man. Like, I used to live for video games. Like, I can remember way back to FIFA. Like, the first FIFA I played was 98. FIFA 98 was my first ever taste into, video game playing, especially within like the sports things. And then I was hooked. From there on, I was hooked. And then came FIFA 99, FIFA 2000, like all the FIFAs. Up until now, I mean, I'm busy playing, Pro Evolution Soccer 21. And I'm just having a ball, man. Like, I still love video gaming, but obviously just as a hobby now. So don't worry. I'm not going to quit my agent job anytime soon to try be a pro esports gamer. Nah, that's not my vibe. I think what it takes to become a pro gamer is, I respect the craft, man. It takes a hell of a lot out of these guys. And yeah, shout out to them. Shout out to them for the discipline they basically display in making their dreams come true. Because, look, it's one of those things where it has so much of an opportunity, especially now with reference to Twitch again. Like, in talking about Twitch, so professional gamers or just gamers in general, like if you're really good at gaming and you stream yourself, you can literally become a content creator and make money off of it. Like, you've got guys, man, that are making 6-figure incomes just from playing video games and letting people watch them. I think a guy from the UK, what's his name, was his FHK or something like that, man. How he started, he was literally playing FIFA in his bedroom, and he started streaming himself playing, and he became huge. So his name is KS9 or something like that, man. KS9. I think that's his name. But anyway, a guy from the UK, man, he literally, that's how he got started. Just by playing FIFA in his bedroom, streaming himself live, and then just becoming, just the next big thing. And he was able to really, really cash in when it came to advertisers. Because what advertisers see is that when you start being a content creator, and let's say you start getting a following of like a million views or million followers, that creates advertising revenue for you. Advertisers fly towards you so that you're able to advertise, obviously, their brands and stuff on your platform. So yeah, man, for you gamers out there that are really passionate about playing video games, if you're able to stream yourself, I say do it. And especially because of this pandemic, a lot of people have been unemployed, man. And I think it's really a time where you just got to get entrepreneurial, and you just got to really think, what are you good at that you can display to the world that can potentially, get you revenue. Something that you can, display to the world and basically create sort of like your own little community, get a following. It doesn't happen overnight. All right. So if you're trying to get rich quick, I don't recommend this type of thing as a gamer. But if you're a person who's passionate about playing video games and you're pretty good at what you're doing, stream yourself, man, and see if you can't get a following behind you. Hey, that's my advice to you, man. Use it, don't use it. It's all good. It's all good. All right. So those are the opportunities within esports that, apart from, guys playing for major cash prizes, you also got sponsorship deals. Corporates are now wanting in on the action. You got, as I mentioned previously with regards to streaming, you got advertisers that also want in. Brands are constantly looking at ways to reach new markets and new segments and new demographics. So, the the gaming world, because a lot of people spend so much time online playing video games, that's also now become a way that advertisers can reach their potential markets, target markets. And then merchandising as well. That also creates an opportunity within the esports. Because now a lot of gamers are gaining, like sort of like a large following, that's also creating an opportunity for merchandising, licensing as well, that comes into play. So the revenue streams, they are there for the esports thing. So for you gamers out there, man, if someone's trying to shit on your dream and telling you not to go for it, just tell them that these are the possibilities. But T's and C's of what I'm talking about, it doesn't happen overnight, guys. It takes consistency to start building a following. Okay? So make sure that you're doing all of this for the right reasons. Make sure that it's something that you love to do, that it doesn't feel like work to you. Because I swear to you, even if you're a good gamer, but if you start doing it so that you're hoping that you can get a large following within the next 2 days or 2 weeks, then you might be doing it for the wrong reasons. But if you genuinely are loving playing video games and showcasing how good you are, it's going to happen organically. All right. And then once the revenue starts streaming in, then you can start even advertising, how you're able to basically be the streamer. You can start advertising on your social media platforms, run paid ads. So yeah, just always be on the lookout for such opportunities because they are there. All right, and then just in my opinion, with regards to esports, and these are coming from a sports agent opinion, is that I really do believe that esports might just eclipse traditional sports in terms of revenue. All right, and I say this from an agent's perspective, because what's also happening now is that esports players are looking for representation. I know, right? Video gamers are looking for professional representation. They're also, seeking agents. And what some of these organizations are willing to pay some of these top gamers to play is ridiculous. Okay, now I'm sure some might be thinking, yeah, but what's this guy on about, man? How could esports eclipse traditional sports? Here's how. In 2016 alone, right? The World Games for esports, they pulled in 47 million views. That's actually more than the amount of views that the NBA Finals Game 7 pulled in. They pulled in 31 million views. The World Esports Games pulled in 47 million views. And that was back in 2016. This was pre the breakout year of 2020. Now imagine after 2020, how much of a jump the world views within the esports tournaments have jumped. Imagine that. All right, so I'm confident about it, man. I do believe that esports, in terms of valuation, in terms of revenue, they will eclipse traditional sports. Because you also got to think about the reach that these guys are getting. The fact that Twitch is literally available everywhere in the world. The same can't be said for a lot of these professional sports, especially like the main events, like your Super Bowls, your NBA Finals. World Cup soccer might come close to eclipsing, things like esports, because, soccer, that's a global sport. But other sporting codes, when they play their main events, they're only available to a select few markets. Whereas with esports, man, with streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube, these are pretty much available everywhere. So the opportunity to be able to view these things is always going to be there for the common folk. And you also got to remember that most of the time, the streaming on these two platforms, YouTube and Twitch, is for free. So that's what it is, man. That's what it is. I'll give you a prime example. FIBA, their tournament was available, the last tournament. In fact, all of their tournaments are available on YouTube for free. So yeah, man, it's an exciting time, guys. It's a fucking exciting time. But be that as it may, man, I still believe that even though esports, let's say, eclipses traditional sports in terms of revenue and everything, it's still not going to take away what physical sports means, to society. There's still something amazing about witnessing a guy, sprinting at an unbelievable, pace and speed. There's still something unbelievable about seeing a guy jump to dunk, So it's not going to take away the popularity of traditional sports, but I think in terms of revenue, esports and pro gaming may just eclipse it. And there's nothing wrong with it, because these are digital platforms, and we are living in the digital era. That's the one thing that you can't deny and you can't walk away from. All right, but these sporting federations, being smart, FIFA, you got FIBA, you got NBA 2K, they've capitalized on it by making sure that they are within the esports realm as well. All right, so that was smart from those three federations. Very smart. And again, it's the three sports that I usually talk about that are the biggest. I'm sure at some point rugby's going to jump on board as well, because if they don't, they're going to get left behind. They really will get left behind. Professional soccer is the biggest, soccer in general is the biggest sport in the world, and they are on esports. Basketball, I believe, is the second biggest sport in the world, and guess what? They are on esports as well, under FIBA and under NBA 2K. So rugby, you gotta step your shit up, man. Step your shit up and get on that esports, because rugby has a very big following, and I do think that if they were to get on the esports platform, that would be a game changer and would actually grow the game even more. Then again, that's just my opinion. That's what I believe. In some other countries, man, like, Europe, esports is pretty big in Europe. In Asia, South Korea and China, it's pretty big. In Japan, the esports industry is still growing. Like I know for a fact, in Akihabara, where I usually go for things like gaming and esports tournaments, that's pretty much where you'll get esports in Japan, in Tokyo, is in Akihabara. That is pretty much game center of Tokyo. In the USA, pretty massive. When we're going to talk about USA, I would say around California, because when the show Ballers was portraying, the growth of esports, it was mostly within the California region, like, Los Angeles, I'm sure San Diego, San Francisco, around about there. I'm sure in other parts of the US it's pretty big too, but as it was portrayed on the show, I think Los Angeles is where you'd mostly find a big culture within the esports industry. And again, I usually connect with esports guys on LinkedIn, and most of them are based in LA. All right, so I think I am right. And in other places, they're also giving away esports scholarships to study at university. I know for a fact, because the university I attended in France to do my master's, Toulouse School of Management, they offer esports bursaries. In the USA, college athletes now are also getting bursaries and scholarships to become esports players and study at the university for free. So these are the opportunities that esports have come with. So the rise in esports, man, it really shouldn't be taken lightly. And I'm sure, if you go and tell your parent that you want to be a gamer and an esports player, some parents would look at you like you're fucking mad. So it's one of those dreams that you really have to protect as a gamer, and that you really have to be serious about, because I don't see it getting a lot of support from the beginning until people start seeing results. So it's definitely an outlier sort of like characteristic. I think to really chase the dream of becoming an esports player or a professional gamer, you really need to be an outlier. You really need to be one of those people who's willing to go against the crowd. You can't be a crowd follower, because it's just one of those dreams that really just requires you. It's pretty much like chasing a dream of being an actor or being a rapper. Not everybody's gonna get it, but I think if it's within you and you're really passionate about pursuing this, then I really do think you need to go for it. And I also believe that because now universities are also giving away scholarships for it, I think that's their way of showing, parents that, listen, we believe in your child's ability to be a pro gamer, and we believe that he can really take it to the next level, and we are willing to pay for his studies so that you guys can get a peace of mind. Pretty much how pro sports did it as well. Because I'm sure in the beginning, no parent would believe their child, and they're like, look, I want to be a professional athlete. They'll be like, no, you're not. You better go to university, get that degree, and get that job, So I think when college sports introduced the whole scholarships for athlete, the whole student athlete title, then parents started getting a bit of peace of mind that, listen, okay, at least my child will go off to university, and even though he's going for this sport, he's still going to be getting some sort of an education. So I think that's what esports is trying to do as well. And as I mentioned before, agents are also getting involved. I'm still looking, I'm definitely looking to get into the world of esports to represent a couple of, athletes within the esports community. But yeah, it's one of those where I'm still taking my time to research and really learn about the industry and the culture that is surrounding the industry. Because with pro sports, becoming a professional sports agent, because I played sports for so long, the transition, it wasn't that hectic because I understand the culture. I've been in the culture of pro sports or the sporting biz since I left high school. So the transition wasn't that mind-boggling for me, but definitely within esports, it's forced me to be a student of the industry, and I'm enjoying it, man. It's really interesting because I love video games as well, so it doesn't feel like work to me. It literally feels like I'm just going back to being, a kid again and just fall in love with gaming all over again. So yeah, it's interesting times, guys. It's really interesting times. All right. Another friend of mine likes to make a joke about it and says, this is the era of the nerds. Nerds are becoming pro athletes, man. Is what it is. Yeah. Don't you wish you didn't tease a nerd? Yeah. Better show some goddamn respect, man, because these guys are making millions, and some of them, man, they've got like a large following. They get a lot of attention, female attention. So yeah, they're your 21st century ballers, man. They are 21st century ballers. But it's exciting, to see, this kind of attention being given to esports players. All right, so yeah, man. So I thought today's episode, I'd make it about esports and we talk about the gaming industry, because as much as I love to talk about, professional football or soccer, pro rugby, pro basketball, we're definitely going to bring in the esports discussion, because when we talk about esports, we actually also bring in soccer and basketball. Not rugby yet, soccer and basketball, because they are within the esports realm as well. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. Please don't forget, support the podcast, man. Get the merchandise. The link will be on the description. So yeah, support the podcast, get the merchandise. Also, you can support the podcast by making a generous donation. I'll put the link to the donation as well. And yeah, man, thank you to everyone who keeps supporting the podcast. I really appreciate it. And, I'm always making a pledge, and I'm always going to stick to my promise to you guys to always bring you quality content within the business of pro sports. All right, so this has been Sports Biz from an agent's perspective with your host, Zila, aka Chester Mbekela, however you want to call me. And remember our slogan, man. We don't only talk sports, but we lived it. All right? Have a good day. Have a good night. Wherever you are, take care. Peace.